Hello and welcome to the Wealth on Purpose podcast. It's here where you can navigate the important financial topics that you want to know about, designed with convenience in mind and a human tone of voice, communicated to you through real stories and a wealth of experience. This is Wealth on Purpose with Brian Diffley and Brian Hartman.
Well, here we are, Bri, back in Omni Studios. We do another podcast episode. How's that sound?
It sounds like a good day for it, I think.
It's a great day for it. You know, we're going to talk today about, we're financial planners, Bri, right? Last time I checked. And today we're going to talk about the differences and obvious pros and cons and importance of planning versus reacting. And we have a few stories that we want to share. We thought this would be kind of a cool one to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think to some level, we're all guilty of both, right? Having things that we plan for and we feel prepared for. It could just be kids have baseball today, right? Laying out the uniform on the bed, expecting that when it's time to go to baseball later, that my house is probably going to be in chaos. So to avoid one step of the chaos, having that baseball uniform kind of laid out on the bed, ready for the kids is pretty good.
People talk about getting ahead of it, right?
Yeah.
Getting ahead of it. Exactly. Laying out the uniforms, make sure the socks are washed, rolled up, ready to go. Sports analogy is a good one. I was thinking about, sports offense versus defense. And I think about football or basketball, right? So if you're on a football team, if you're on offense, do you know the play? Yep. If you're on defense, do you know the play? Nope. Now, I'm not saying that the defense doesn't plan for it, but it's a different kind of planning. Like, I kind of like the idea of being on offense versus defense. You know exactly what's going to happen. Every step is calculated. Imagine if you could plan other things outside of just recreation to actually be like that, to fit into your life, obviously financial lives. Imagine how well prepared you would be. Imagine the playbook that you could proudly put down on the table, say, this is my deal.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, geez. Whether you're on the field as an athlete, right, in your scenario, or you're a parent getting ready for that baseball practice or game you have later, if you don't plan and you just kind of react to the moment, well, now I'm a parent who has a long day at work, right? Whose son's got to get to baseball practice later on, and I lost the sock, and we have to be there in 10 minutes, and my emotions go through the roof, and I'm maybe reacting ways that I'm not proud of reacting, and not doing it the way that I should be, and showing up a little bit late, and having that tough conversation with the coach, and then reflecting on it as I'm going to sleep that night that, I could have just laid out the uniform a little bit early. Mm-hmm. Think about how that relates so much to the things that could happen in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We were talking as you were preparing for this about so often people refer to life's unexpected moments as curveballs. Right? What? In our life, if we're the batters and we're in the batter's box in the baseball field, are we expecting the pitcher just to throw 75 mile an hour, perfect strikes every time that are just really easy to swing at?
Right.
Like, is that what we're thinking about when we're talking about our lives? I just think everything's gonna be good. I'm gonna have infinite good health, as are all of my family members. I'm gonna have the same job forever.
Exactly. I mean, if you're that batter, if you've done your homework and you prepared instead of reacted, you're like, okay, so this pitcher has one of them is a curveball. I know it's coming. I don't know what sequence it's going to be coming in. My job's to hit it, though, or to have it fall out of the zone. Either way, you're preparing for the curveball. So when people say, life throws you a curveball, guess what? That's okay. Guess what else is okay? In our world, markets are volatile. So, preparing or expecting, rather, markets to be volatile, and then backing that into a plan just kind of makes sense. I mean, that's being ready. That's preparedness, and just expecting what's about to come. Not necessarily in the exact sequence. This isn't a play. We don't know exactly when the bad guy is going to materialize and how to handle that, but we do know that is coming at some point in time. And also being like, okay, look, if I get a few strikes here, it doesn't mean I'm out. And if I'm out, guess what? I got another chance at the plate. So the baseball analogies are coming fast and furious today, but I kind of like it because it does set the stage for what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yep. So let's talk about it. So as financial planners, kind of our job, above and beyond just like the investment management, which is the obvious piece that we do for our clients every single day, it's also to shed light on some things that our clients may experience through the rest of their lives that maybe they don't love thinking about every single day. Yeah. But curveballs don't necessarily always have to be bad things, right? Like, right. I would imagine if you're listening to this, you're going, okay, like curveballs are what? Like job loss,
divorce,
injury,
right?
Yep.
Medical
what if the curveball is an unexpected windfall
of
money?
Yep.
or an inheritance that you
Right.
didn't see coming your way. Like these don't necessarily have to be negative things, maybe just things that weren't on plan A.
Exactly. And people may say, well, if I get an inheritance, do I really need to plan for that? In our experience, people absolutely need to plan for that. I mean, there's a series of things to keep in your little noggin if that were to happen to you.
Yeah, I mean, the inheritance thing is big. It's something that we should all be paying attention to. We are in the midst of what we call the great wealth transfer, where wealth is leaving one generation's hands and ending up in other generations' hands faster than it ever has before. So not that you kind of lick your chops with the expectancy that you're going to have a inheritance. We certainly don't encourage our clients to pre-monetize that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think I'm going to get this amount. But also just, what would you do, right? And take away the permission slip for laughing at this, because we've had these conversations. Oh, I know what I'd do. I'm going to buy that Corvette, or I'm going to take a trip around the world and just blow it. Like, that's fine. If if your life allows you to make like those kind of decisions, congratulations. If receiving an inheritance has the ability to change your life, or maybe even the next generations of your family's lives, probably a good idea to take like some time to think about it.
Yeah, of course. So, okay, first story, right? So, Brian, we have a client who is going through a job change. He's going into retirement, and he was going to leave retirement, but it turned out, because he had conversations with the powers that be and management, that they were going to let him leave. This was a change of a multi-six-figure package that is now knocking on his doorstep to the tune of about $800,000, where now he would not have received if he was going to go out first. So, I mean, how incredible is that? Should he be preparing for that? We're meeting with him weekly now to make sure that he gets this right and gets his ducks in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, so the job thing. So when good things happen, it absolutely doesn't mean that you don't just have to prepare for it. If all the more reason to, actually. Hands on deck. Let's get this thing right. Yeah. Let's get all the partners right. Let's get all the pieces on the wheel of your financial plan correct, so you could feel very good slipping into your slippers that first morning as a retired person, knowing that you have done the hard work, but I mean, done the work with your advisory team and all your other professionals that you need to.
Without a question. Preparedness, right? Like we stay in our lane sometimes, in that we're financial planners and we help a lot of our clients with their financial matters. But a lot of these curveballs, life events come with a lot of changes in other aspects of our lives. If we as a married person or someone that's in a relationship pass away, we're leaving this earth. We're not there to guide that surviving spouse or surviving children or nieces and nephews with how we'd want to have things go, right? Especially if it's something unexpected. It's then left on them. But the first thing that we need to remember is, with a lot of these events, whether it's losing your job earlier than you thought it was going to be, or an injury, there's an incredible amount of emotions that need to happen. Right. And
absolutely,
with a lot of these things, like if you were to become disabled, it's not like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna put it in the back of the table. I'll take care of that in a couple of months, how I'm gonna pay the mortgage and things like that. The mortgage still needs to be paid that next month. If you were to pass away, there's a lot of planning that the family needs to go through, and especially when it comes to the timelines related to leaving assets to someone else. So you have the emotions that are there that need to be addressed. And if you don't have a plan to address the financial matters of it, I mean, it's chaos from what we've seen.
Yeah, and we're not saying that that emotions don't have a place, right? Emotions are worthy to be part of the transition, but it also doesn't mean that you don't deserve or get to have peace of mind. You can have emotional, even dissonance. I mean, not everything has to be roses and rose petals or what have you. I mean, there could be some uncomfortable feelings, but it doesn't mean that the plan needs to be affected, let alone even rocked by it. You're allowed to have the peace of mind. And again, going back to that, I mean, part of what planning is for us is expectations, setting expectations, reasonable ones, working that with the people that we work with, and actually getting people to common ground. And actually what we found is when we do that, they actually had a lot of these more copacetic and aligned feelings than they thought that they did. Once they sort of strip away sort of the feelings that might be heavy for them, like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Like, we had the plan here. We can expect this. We didn't expect, just because I'm retiring, now the markets are going to smooth out for me. That's not what's going to happen. We're going to still have ups and downs, but I mean, we get to feel good about it, even though we may feel certain things in the moment.
Sure. And the healthiest thing for people to do throughout any of these is to actually probably pay more attention to emotions and how they're feeling about it than they are about the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the greatest thing that we've ever heard from clients who've gone through some troubling times is we know we've had a plan for this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you just kind of call in that the rule book of how do we handle this? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
we had a long-term care event with mom, right? She became less healthy quicker than we thought, and we now need a nurse to come out to the house. We have a plan for this. We know exactly what bucket of money that we were going to be using specifically for this need, as opposed to in that moment having mom being sick, feeling what that feels like to have someone in your family sick, and then having to figure out how to pay for it. It's chaos. Do I coordinate this with my brothers and sisters and other family members versus, oh, no, the plan was in place. Now we just had to go and execute on it. It allows you to take that nice pause. Okay, I'm in this moment. I know I have a plan for it. Now I just need to execute.
Exactly. Yeah, we know that our clients, including us, aren't aging in reverse. We know what happens as aging happens linearly and what could happen financially and, to our bodies as we get older and the impact on that. So yeah, planning on that event. I mean, long-term care event is a big one because that's something that can come in. I mean, we talked about this on previous episodes, can really come in and do a doozy to the financial plan, to the dollars and cents. Not planning for that event. I mean, and just thinking, oh, this isn't going to happen to me. I feel good now. Really isn't rational behavior. It's behavior, but it's not financially rationally sound or grounded behavior. So I think the challenge for people to say, it may feel icky getting yourself into a compromising situation and feel, but the benefits of that, the benefactor of putting yourself in that not yet situation, if that is happening, this is a potential future issue for you to work with. Dealing with it now when we're well, when we don't have that emotional cloud to fight through. Now we're fighting through this emotional cloud. No, when it's not even there, that's the best time to plan for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And all right, so let's go into that. Like, how do we do it, right? So a lot of times we talk about how we stress test our clients' portfolios. And I think that maybe some folks think that we're just looking at the markets, right? Let's take a look at the curveballs that solely the markets can throw our way. Hey, what happens if we go into a recession, at the wrong time, or we have stagflation, or we have lots of inflation for long periods of time, right? I think that's the thing that people think that we're testing.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, what we're doing with our software and our planners within the firm is going, well, yes, fine. Let's acknowledge all the different things that can happen in the market. But let's also say, if one of these events happen, somebody gets an unexpected expense, let's give a good one. Son or daughter gets married earlier than you thought they were going to be, and you want to help them with the wedding. A great celebration.
Right.
But where do you go? Where would you go for that unexpected, right? If you're someone that only has a 401k and your children get married when you're 55, that's a tough thing to pay for from your 401k balance, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, better decision making under stressful situations, or to your point, maybe not all that stressful. Maybe something that has the makings of everything that is good, like a marriage. But now you're like, oh my God, where's the money going to come from? I want to help Bobby and Susie out. How do I do that? Having those thoughts prior just makes the financial, I guess, flexibility of those decisions just easier, right? A little bit more fluidity, in the gears to sort of operate without the clunkiness of like feeling like you're back against the ropes and having to make a decision because you want to do something good for someone where a good event is happening. So yeah, it's not all gloom and doom, but getting ahead of it, planning for it, reading the playbook that others have written, and then refining it with your team. I think that's where people win.
Yeah. This can be overwhelming, right? We've just named a couple examples in the short time that we've been talking today, but for us, our roles, I mean, not just in the beginning of our relationships when we're working with clients, the ongoing role is to shed light on these things and to really extract some of that data, right? So we're in a client meeting and someone says, yeah, my son's really dating a girl. They've been together for a while. And maybe usually they would just leave that. That's how the conversation went. It was just kind of something to say in passing. Well, we may actually say, hey, is a wedding on the future? Has your family thought about how you would pay for it? And really extracting that just to get folks thinking about it. Right? Life is busy, and thinking about some of these more complex issues, even if, again, good or bad, sometimes can be really intimidating. I don't even know what I should be thinking about is what we hear a lot from clients, right? I don't even know how many of these scenarios I can possibly run. You don't have to.
Exactly. And I mean, we have people come to us for those things, be like, hey, I have this one-off event, it's a marriage, or it's a big vacation, where do I take the money from? I mean, the benefit that they have is that all the money lives in one place. It all has a voice. It all has a name. And then it's like, okay, well, let's look under the hood digitally and let's figure this out. I mean, we're able to have those conversations. So before the event happens, they could plan it, but now they know where the money's coming from and they can feel good about not only, how to fund it, but now they can just put that aside and be like, okay, I'm shelving that issue. That anxiety's gone. Now I know where it's coming from.
All right, full disclosure, Brian and I do not sell auto insurances or anything like that. Mm-hmm. That's just not part of our business model. And there's great professionals that do that kind of thing. But think about it. Every time we get in the car, right, we actually start to anticipate what happens if I get in a car accident.
Sure.
Right? We always do, right? You know why? We've all bought cars with airbags. We put on our seatbelt before we get going, right? We're checking our tires to make sure they're not flat. And we have auto insurance. So we've planned, right? In the case I have an accident, I've already taken the precaution of putting my seatbelt on. Okay, great. If I get in an accident, I need to replace my car. Somebody's injured. Okay, then I'm going to call in my insurance claim. So we pay attention to those. And relatively speaking, for most families, a car accident isn't something that is going to be life altering. For some people it is, but your average fender bender won't be.
Right.
But we've planned for the fender bender. Well, how about the stuff that probably is going to happen? Well, we all will die. Right? It's very likely that at some point our professional lives are disrupted, whether it's because the company that we're working with is no longer going to be around, or maybe there are services to that company isn't going to be needed in the future, mm-hmm. or whatever it may be, right? So we need to plan around for some of those events too. And again, I understand the displeasure of thinking about those. Think about the displeasure of reacting to one of those versus saying, I know exactly what we would do if this happened.
Exactly. So what you're talking about now, Bri, is more some examples of smart planning, right? Using insurance companies in position to share their balance sheet, having the wherewithal ahead of time to get let's say the big perils, like we know people that have flood insurance. We know people that have earthquake insurance, right? Here in South Carolina, we sit on a fault, right? Mm-hmm. So people have those sorts of things, and it's making some smart decisions, whether it be insurance, whether it be, self-planning, whether it be, if we get into the legal side of things or upon, the fourth quarter of someone's life, estate planning, having that conversations with your legal team, mm-hmm. and saying, here are my ambitions. I've done well in life. I'd like to set up a situation. I've heard that there are these things out there, trust or what have you, that I can, leverage to take care of my family, have some instructions either from the grave or that I can control, and maybe some instructions that can just let my family go and live as they need to. But setting that up on the smart legal side of things. And again, it's not carving out Uncle Sam, giving him everything that he needs and deserves, but not a penny more if he could do the proper planning. So I just kind of said a lot in those few sentences, but that was kind of a lot in one. But it basically, planning properly, planning smartly, doing it individually or as a family. In other words, I would say a better word to say that would be tailored, doing it in a tailored way, but using tools that have been readily available for the longest time and just taking advantage of it.
Yeah. And put yourself in one of these moments and think about, you're laying in a hospital bed. You're not able to make a decision on your own, right? From a legal document standpoint, you have all the legal documents. The person who's responsible for that, it steps up. And your family who's in the waiting room goes, we had a plan for this. This stinks this happened, but we were prepared and had a plan for this. It doesn't mean that these events aren't going to happen to your family, or it doesn't mean that you're going to will them into them happening just because you have a plan for it. But when you have a plan, whether it's yourself or somebody that you're bestowing future responsibility onto, and they can say, our family had a plan, or our business had a plan for this, is just that feeling is so important. And so there are a lot of studies about financial advisors, financial planners specifically, about the value that we add to our clients. And there was a point in time, Bri, where a lot of our personal performance was judged based on the rates of return that maybe a portfolio gave mm-hmm. to an individual or family. And today, the studies actually show that the value that great planners have for the families that they care for is around things like this, in helping them be prepared for some of the things that they just needed to. And how much value that it added to the family, right? That they got to avoid maybe overspending in the time of crisis.
Yeah.
Or worse, families that were once close being disbanded from each other or disgruntled with each other because of something that happened fast, and decisions need to be made quickly, and maybe everybody that wasn't on the same page about those.
Yeah. I mean, feeling rushed in a big financial decision, I don't know what could be more weighty than that. And because normally it's surrounding someone might be in trouble, maybe a family member maybe had just passed. Maybe you didn't have the time because you didn't do the planning to do that again. I mean, this isn't trying to make anyone feel bad, but doing the emotional selling or spending when you feel like you need to make a decision to go and do something, I don't know. I feel like that's just a recipe that may not taste all that well at the end of the day. I remember a story. The first place I ever worked at, the owner of the place in a very successful business, he shared the story one time with us, and he said, I was sick. I got sick like this in the hospital. I'm lying there knowing that I'm a successful guy, and I didn't plan. He goes, it rocked me. I didn't have my insurances. I didn't do my trust. He goes, if I went that day, I knew that my family would be scraping things together. And he goes, I happen to feel that. And it was my motivation to get better. And it took him a while, a month or so to get back and get out. But when he did, he's like, I got with my legal team. I got with my insurance brokers, and I set up shop. He goes, and I told myself I was never going to put them in a compromising situation again. Very true story. I literally just thought of it now, and it was he would have. I mean, he would have, because he was successful. He would have left a wake of issues that if he dealt with when he was well and healthy and didn't have the stress. I mean, I'm glad that he pulled through, but if he didn't, he could have closed his eyes feeling that he did everything that he could have. I feel like the opposite feeling can really be, heart-wrenching in the right circumstances. So again, just another example of the same thing that we're talking about.
So let's wrap up, because this is a great conversation, and I hope everybody got the point of it, right? It was really just about you can prepare, right? You don't have to have everything doesn't have to be perfect. There can be some details that just we have to acknowledge just can't be planned for, but the stuff that we can plan for, let's do it. So that way, whether it happens to you or something happens to you that this now is happening to other people in your family, that the answer can't be, we had no idea this was coming and we don't know what to do. Let's have the answer be, we were prepared for this and we've been planning it for years. So just as in baseball, the batter steps into the batter's box, puts the bat back, and it's not about he or she predicting the future, knowing which pitch was going to come. No. But it was about kind of being ready for anything, being ready for the ball, being ready for this super fast strike down the middle, being ready for the curveball. Imagine if you could get yourself to working with your financial planner, whether that's us and our amazing team at Granite Bridge Wealth Management, or a team that you're already working with. Imagine really resting at night, maybe very similar to what the story you just shared, or laying in that bed after you were hurt and going, I'm basically ready for anything.
100%. 100%, because the planning won't eliminate those curveballs, but it just gives options. It just gives options. Be proactive now is what you're saying, so you can be calm later. Being calm in a storm, that's a real thing, right? If a storm comes your way, if you've done the work, you get to feel calm there. I'm convinced of that. So yeah, great session. I think a lot of good points made. Thanks again to everyone listening. Always appreciate you, and looking forward to the next one. Here we go.
Thank you for stopping by the Wealth on Purpose podcast. Your visit is very important to us. If you feel that you got something from your time, please consider subscribing and/or liking. For more, please visit us on granitebridgewealth.com, where a wealth of knowledge awaits.